Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 1 of the subject Modern Indian Political Thought, and the chapter is Colonial Intervention in Economy, Society and Polity. Let's see the topics to be covered. Introduction, Stages of Colonialism, Colonial Intervention in Indian Society. You must keep in mind that political control by one country over another or British rule in India were only components of colonialism and did not constitute its essence. Colonialism, in fact, was a much larger phenomenon. Before we try to define colonialism, two things need to be remembered. Colonialism should be seen as a world phenomenon. It involved many countries in different capacities. It should also be seen as a structure which includes political control. So, colonialism should be seen as a structure where one country dominates the other country in terms of political control when one country or a state is not free, is not sovereign. That is the meaning of colonialism. Stages of colonialism. Regarding the stages of colonialism, a few points must be remembered. Appropriation of the surplus of the colony by the metropolis was the central feature of colonialism. There was no sharp break between one stage and the other. As one stage evolved and grew into the other stage, features of the earlier stage, that is method of surplus appropriation, continued into the later stage as well. Some forms of surplus appropriation might be very marked in one colony but totally absent in some other colony because of distinct historical factors. So some forms of surplus appropriation, of taking capital, of taking wealth, were prominent in one colony but they were totally absent in other colonies because of other historical factors or of other historical features. The first stage, the period of monopoly, trade and revenue appropriation. During the first stage of colonialism, the basic objectives of colonialism were monopoly of trade with the colony vis-a-vis other European merchants and the colony's traders and producers. So they monopolized whoever is ruling, they monopolized the trade and the economy and the merchants also. So the producers and the traders deal with them and make their products. The direct appropriation of revenue or surplus through the use of the state power. Since they have political control, that is why they use the state power for their goal as well. The colonial state required large financial resources to wage wars in the colony and on the seas and to maintain naval forces, forts, armies and trading posts. So the colonial state, it required large financial resources to maintain everything, to maintain naval forces, army, forts, as well as trading posts. The second stage is exploitation through trade. The essence of the second stage of colonialism was the making of the colony into a subordinate trading partner which would export raw materials and import manufacturers. The colony's social surplus was to be appropriated through trade on the basis of selling dear and buying cheap. This stage of colonialism could even embrace countries which retained political freedom. The second stage generated a liberal imperialist political ideology and sections of imperialist statesmen and administrators who talked of training the colonial people in the arts of democracy and self-government. So basically it was raw materials need to be exported and manufacturers will need to be imported. The social surplus of the colony was to be appropriated through trade on the basis of selling dear and buying cheap. So whatever surplus was there of the colony, that was appropriated by the country who was ruling them. The third stage, a new stage of colonialism was ushered in as a result of several changes in the world economy. Spread of industrialization to several countries of Europe, North America and Japan. Intensification of industrialization as a result of the application of scientific knowledge to industry. Further unification of the world market due to a revolution in the means of international transport. There now occurred an intense struggle for new, secure, and exclusive markets and sources of agricultural and mineral raw markets and foodstuffs. It means industrialization occurred, modernization occurred, and as a result of it, world market, there was a unification in the world market and an intense struggle for exclusive and secure markets as well as other raw materials, foodstuffs, agricultural products arose. So this was a stage where new changes occurred as a result of several changes in the world economy which affected one place to the other. So industrialization, modernization occurred and it led to a lot of changes in the world market. Colonial intervention in Indian society. Indian economy gradually got linked to British economy in particular and world capitalist economy in general. The British colonialism in turn penetrated into every area of Indian society. So the British colonialism dominated over the Indian society and it penetrated into every area of it and it linked to it, and they soon did a lot of changes in Indian society. Let us see the content and nature of this intervention. Intervention in social and cultural fields, intervention in economy, education, intervention in polity as well. Now let's see the intervention in social and cultural fields. Along with British rule also came a link with the West, and ideas which were developed in Western Europe made their entry into India. Through trade and travel, India had for centuries contact not only with the countries of Asia but also with Europe. So, with the coming of the British rule, there came a link with the social as well as the cultural ideas of the West. They also slowly made their entry into India. With the help of trade, with the help of travel, India had for centuries did not contact the countries of Asia but also with Europe. So, with the help of trade and travel, lot of social and cultural things of the West came by. The intellectual life of the Indian people were influenced by such ideas as democracy and sovereignty of the people, rationalism and humanism. These ideas helped Indians not only to take a critical look at their own society, economy and government, but also to understand the true nature of British imperialism in India. So with the help of these ideas, rationalism, humanism, sovereignty, democracy, with the help of these ideas, Indians not only took a critical look at their own society, economy and the way of functioning, but also they tried to understand the true nature and motive of British rule in India. Now, intervention in economy. They also intervened in the economy, in the trade, in the industry, in the agricultural sector, in their own way. So it had a major impact on agricultural. The British brought about important transformation on India's agricultural economy, but this was not with a view to improving Indian agriculture, but rather to obtain for themselves, for their own profit in the form of land revenue, all surplus available in agriculture, and to force Indian agriculture to play its assigned role in a colonial economy. So basically, new things were introduced in the agricultural sector, new things were introduced, the equipments, the methodologies, the methods of agriculture and farming were introduced for their own benefit, so as to gain lot of money and land as well as land revenue, not to do any benefit or gain to the Indian economy. It also had a huge impact on trade and the industry of the Indian government. As with agriculture, the British Indian government controlled trade and industry purely with a view to foster British interests, to gain lot of interest, to gain the wealth. They also tried to control, and they also control the trade and industry with the sole aim of profit and with the sole aim of earning money and robbing Indian economy of money. So this kind of impact they had on trade and industry of the Indian society. Intervention was also there in polity and state related affairs. First, it was in civil services. Cornwallis, who came to India as Governor General in 1786, was determined to purify the administration, but he realized that the company's servants would not give honest and efficient service as long as they were not given adequate salaries. So, without adequate salaries, efficient service and honest service was not given. In 1800, Lord Wellesley pointed out that even though civil servants often ruled vast areas, they came to India at the immature age of 18 or so and were given no regular training before starting on their jobs. So Lord Wellesley pointed out that even though civil servants ruled, even though civil servants had the knowledge, but they joined India, they came to India at the age of 18 and they did not have any formal or regular training before starting with their jobs. Till 1853, all appointments to the civil services were made by the directors of the East India Company. So intervention in polity happened in army as well. It fulfilled three important functions. It was the instrument through which the Indian powers were conquered. It defended the British Empire in India from foreign rivals. It safeguarded British supremacy from the ever-present threat of internal revolt. They safeguarded British supremacy, East India Company, from internal as well as external revolt. If any external revolt comes, they used to safeguard them from foreign rivals. If anyone else comes, they used to safeguard, as well as from any internal revolt or any internal revolt against them. The British Army also saved them and it defended the British Empire. Police. The third pillar of British rule was the police. He relieved the zamindars of their police functions and established a regular police force to maintain law and order. In this respect, he went back to and modernized the old Indian system of thanas. Earlier, thanas were there and there was no regular police force, but with the help of the coming of the Britishers, they relieved the zamindars of their police functions and they established a regular police, obviously to take care and to see after the Britishers' interests, but they established a regular police to maintain law and order, which led to the modernization of the old Indian system of thanas. Judicial organization. The British laid the foundations of a new system of dispensing justice through a hierarchy of civil and criminal courts. Through civil, criminal courts, through the different courts, the British also laid the new system of dispensing justice and giving equality to everyone. So, in the judicial organization came the courts, civil or the criminal courts or the higher ones. The rule of law. This meant that administration was to be carried out, at least in theory, in obedience to laws which clearly defined the rights, privileges and obligations of the subjects and not according to the caprice or personal discretion of the ruler. If the rule of law has to be there, then it should be in accordance with the people's interests, their privileges as well as rights, not upon the personal discretion of the ruler. Equality before law. In the eyes of law, all men were equal. All are equal in the eyes of law. Nobody is above or below that. Nobody should be favored and nobody should be given unfair treatment. This is what it states. So this was all about coming of the Britishers here and establishing their rule, whether in economy, trade, politics as well as the state. That's it we have for you in this session. These are some of the questions you have to do it yourself. Question number 1. Briefly discuss the impact of colonial intervention on agriculture. And question number 2. Briefly discuss Cornwallis' role vis-a-vis the Indian civil service. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.